It was a crisp morning in Fremont, California. The Tesla factory stood tall, its sleek, modern design a stark contrast to the busy industrial surroundings. People moved in and out, focused and determined, as the sound of machines and innovation filled the air. Among the usual hum of productivity, one person stood out. A woman, wrapped in a worn blanket, sat quietly on the sidewalk just outside the factory gates. Her face was weathered by time and hardship, her eyes distant, as if the world around her had lost meaning. She wasn't asking for anything. There was no desperate plea or noticeable signs of struggle, just a quiet, almost peaceful resignation. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, had just wrapped up a long night of brainstorming and strategic meetings. As he walked toward his car, his gaze fell on the woman. She didn't fit the usual image of the people Tesla was known for creating: bright minds, ambitious engineers, and billion-dollar dreams. But something about her caught his attention. For a moment, Elon paused. He was used to the noise of his fast-paced world, the thrill of revolutionizing industries. But this woman's stillness in the chaos of it all tugged at something deeper inside him. Who was she? How did she end up there, so close to the world's most innovative company, yet so far from the dreams it represented? As he stood there, unaware that this fleeting encounter would set in motion a chain of events that would not only change her life, but also alter his, Elon Musk couldn't help but wonder, what was it that could be done for her? Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a story that would showcase the power of empathy, transformation, and unexpected connections. The story that was about to unfold would be a testament to the strength of human kindness and the impact one moment could have. Her name was Clara. In her late 30s, she had never imagined her life would turn out the way it had. Just a few years ago, Clara was content with her small but steady life. She worked as a cashier at a local grocery store, managing to live paycheck to paycheck. Though money was tight, she found happiness in simple pleasures, sharing laughs with her coworkers, preparing her favorite meals, and nurturing a dream that kept her going. One day, opening a cozy cafe, she imagined serving freshly brewed coffee and homemade pies, creating a welcoming spot for everyone in her community. But life doesn't always go as planned. The first blow came when the grocery store she worked at shut down. Bigger chains made it impossible for the smaller, local stores to survive. Clara, who had worked there for almost a decade, suddenly found herself without a job. She spent countless hours searching for a new one, but job opportunities were hard to come by. The weeks dragged on, and soon her savings began to vanish quicker than expected. Then the situation worsened. Clara's mother, the only family she had left, fell seriously ill. Medical bills piled up, and Clara did everything she could to help, taking odd jobs, selling personal belongings, and even moving into a shelter to save on rent. But despite all her efforts, her mother passed away. The loss left Clara devastated, and without any family or stable income, she ended up on the streets. Life on the streets was brutal. The nights were cold, the days long and lonely. The sounds of passing cars and the smells of the city became the backdrop to her existence. Yet, Clara never gave up on her dreams. Every night, as she rested on a park bench or tucked away in a corner, she would close her eyes and imagine the cafe she had always dreamed of. She could almost smell the coffee brewing and hear the laughter of customers, sharing moments in the space she hoped to create one day. But dreaming didn't feed her, and it certainly didn't offer warmth. As her hope began to fade, she often wondered if anyone would ever see the person she truly was. A hard-working woman who had simply fallen on hard times. She wasn't looking for sympathy, just an opportunity to rebuild her life. That morning near the Tesla factory wasn't anything unusual for Clara. She had walked there because it was a quiet place to rest. The warmth from the factory vents offered a bit of comfort against the cold morning air. She had no expectations, no thoughts that anything would change. But little did she know that her quiet strength and resilience were about to be noticed by someone who could offer her a chance to change her life forever. Clara sat quietly on the cold concrete, her thin blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders. The workers at the Tesla factory moved in and out, walking with purpose, their faces focused on the tasks ahead. It was a sharp contrast to Clara's stillness. her thoughts drifting to a time when her life had more routine, more goals. She adjusted her blanket, trying to stay warm, when a sudden commotion caught her attention. Across the street, a small food cart had tipped over, spilling apples, sandwiches, and bottles of water onto the pavement. The vendor, an elderly man with shaky hands, scrambled to pick up the scattered items, but the crowd around him seemed too busy to notice. They walked past, preoccupied with their own lives. Clara didn't hesitate. Despite the ache in her body from sitting in the cold for hours, she stood up and crossed the street. She bent down, ignoring the discomfort, and started picking up the fallen items. With each apple, sandwich, and bottle, she carefully returned them to the cart. "Thank you, miss," the vendor said, his voice trembling with gratitude as he looked up at her. "It's nothing," Clara replied with a soft smile. "Let's get this cart upright again." Together, they managed to set the cart back on its wheels. Clara wiped her hands on her blanket, not caring about the dirt. It was more important to help. "You didn't have to help," the man said, his eyes warm with appreciation. "Most people just walked by." Clara shrugged. "I know what it feels like to need a little help." The vendor took a moment, eyeing Clara's weathered appearance. He paused, then said, "You're a good soul. Are you hungry? Please take something." He gestured to the cart, offering her some of the food. Clara hesitated. She hadn't eaten much in the past couple of days, but she didn't want to take from someone who was also struggling. "No, thank you," she replied gently. "You need to sell what you can." But the vendor insisted, pressing a small sandwich wrapped in wax paper into her hands. "Then take this. It's on me." Clara reluctantly accepted, her stomach growling as she looked at the food. "Thank you," she said sincerely. She walked back to her spot near the factory, the sandwich in hand, feeling a flicker of warmth in her chest. Helping someone, even in small ways, had always been something she believed in. Her late mother had often told her, "Kindness doesn't need a price tag. It's something we can always afford to share." What Clara didn't know was that someone had been watching her the entire time. Elon Musk, standing near his car, had seen the whole thing unfold. He'd watched as Clara, despite her own struggles, helped the elderly vendor without hesitation. Her selflessness had struck a chord with him. She didn't have to do that, he muttered under his breath. But she did. At that moment, a spark had been lit. Clara's simple act of kindness, so effortless and genuine, was about to change her life in ways she could never have imagined. She sat down with her sandwich, savoring each bite, unaware that someone with the power to change her future had witnessed her quiet generosity. The next morning, Clara was back in her usual spot near the Tesla factory, wrapped in her blanket against the early morning chill. It had become part of her routine. The cold was nothing new. She had learned to survive it. She didn't notice the sleek black Tesla parked nearby or the man sitting in it, quietly observing her. Inside the car, Elon Musk reviewed some notes on his tablet, but his mind kept drifting back to the scene he had witnessed the day before. Something about Clara's quiet strength, the way she selflessly helped the vendor, had stuck with him. It was simple yet profound. After a moment's hesitation, he stepped out of the car and walked toward her. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice making Clara look up, squinting against the sunlight. "Yes," she replied cautiously, unsure of the stranger approaching her. "My name is Elon," he said, extending his hand. Clara didn't take it, still unsure why a well-dressed man in a suit was speaking to her. "I saw what you did yesterday," Elon continued. "Helping that vendor. That was kind of you." Clara shrugged, not fully understanding the weight of his words. "It wasn't a big deal." "It was to him," Elon said, his voice earnest. "And it was to me." Clara looked him over, trying to make sense of this encounter. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I believe in giving people a chance," Elon said, "and I think you deserve one." Before Clara could respond, he handed her a business card. The Tesla logo stood out boldly on the front. "Come to the factory tomorrow morning. Ask for me. I want to hear your story." Clara stared at the card, skepticism written all over her face. "Why?" she asked, still unsure of his intentions. Elon smiled, a small but genuine expression. "Because sometimes A little kindness can open doors you didn't know existed. The next day, a life-changing opportunity. Clara barely slept that night, wondering if this was all some kind of prank. She clutched the card tightly in her hand, walking slowly toward the Tesla factory the next morning. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she showed the card to the security guard when she arrived. The guard's response surprised her. "Right this way, ma'am," he said, immediately leading her into the sleek building. Clara felt out of place, walking through spotless floors and passing employees who seemed like they were in a rush. But she followed him down a long hallway, her nerves tightening with each step. Elon was waiting for her in a glass-walled conference room, looking up from a stack of papers as she entered. "Clara, please have a seat," he said, motioning toward the chair. She sat down, her hands tightly clasped in her lap. "I don't understand why I'm here," she admitted, feeling both out of place and overwhelmed. Elon leaned forward, his tone sincere. "I've been where you are, not in the exact same way, but I understand what it's like to feel like the odds are against you. I've failed more times than I can count, but someone gave me a chance, and it changed everything. I want to do the same for you." Clara blinked, her eyes welling up, but she quickly wiped away the tears. "I don't know what I can offer someone like you," she said quietly. Elon smiled, leaning back in his chair. "It's not about what you can offer. It's about what you can become." For the next hour, Clara opened up. She shared her struggles, losing her job, taking care of her sick mother, and her dream of opening the small cafe one day. Elon listened without interrupting, nodding thoughtfully as she spoke. When she finished, he sat up straight. "Here's what I propose," he said. "I want to help you get back on your feet. I'll provide the resources for you to open that cafe you've always dreamed of. All I ask is that when you're able, you pay it forward." Clara couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Why would you do that for me?" she asked, still trying to understand. Elon shrugged, his voice calm. "Because I believe in people who believe in themselves." That meeting marked a turning point in Clara's life. What started as a random act of kindness, a simple moment of helping a vendor, had opened a door she never imagined would be available to her. She left the factory that day with a sense of hope and possibility she hadn't felt in years, still struggling to grasp the magnitude of what had just happened. Her future, once uncertain, now seemed filled with promise. Clara's new beginning. Clara's life had changed in ways she never thought possible. With Elon's help, she was no longer bound by the streets or struggling to survive. His team worked alongside her, helping her navigate the complicated steps of opening her cafe. From securing permits to sorting out finances and design plans, Clara found herself suddenly immersed in a world that once felt far out of reach. 6 months later, her cafe, Second Chances, opened its doors. It was a fitting name, a nod to the turning point in her life that had allowed her to rebuild. Situated in a cozy corner near the Tesla factory, the cafe became an instant hit in the community. The walls were decorated with photos of smiling customers, handwritten notes of appreciation, and a small plaque that read, "Kindness is the first step to change." But the cafe wasn't just a place for coffee and pies. It symbolized Clara's transformation. For the first time in years, she had steady income, a safe home, and the ability to care for her mother, who had recently moved in with her. The apartment was modest, but it was filled with warmth and laughter, the same things Clara had dreamed about for so long. The challenges of running a business, of course. Running a cafe wasn't without its challenges. Clara had to learn quickly how to manage inventory, handle customer complaints, and juggle the unpredictable rhythms of a small business. There were long nights when she stayed up late, poring over invoices, or days when she felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities. But in those moments of doubt, she remembered Elon's words. "It's not about what you can offer, it's about what you can become." As her business grew, so did her confidence. Clara started hiring others who, like her, were looking for a second chance. One of her first hires was Tony, the vendor she had helped months before. His gratitude and strong work ethic quickly made him a key member of the team. Together, they built a cafe where every employee and customer felt valued and seen, giving back to the community. As the cafe gained popularity, Clara's desire to give back only grew. She began hosting kindness nights, where a portion of the proceeds went to local homeless shelters. She also set up a small corner of the cafe where customers could donate food, clothes, or other essentials for those in need. One afternoon, as the cafe bustled with customers enjoying their coffee, Elon paid a surprise visit. Clara greeted him with a wide smile. "Welcome to Second Chances," she said, her voice full of pride. Elon looked around at the vibrant space, the warm atmosphere filling the air. "You've done an incredible job, Clara," he said. Clara shook her head, smiling. "Thanks to you," she replied. "No," Elon said, correcting her with a gentle tone. "Thanks to you. You're the one who made this happen." As they sat down at a corner table, Clara shared the stories of how her cafe had impacted the community. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "I used to think one small act of kindness didn't matter, but now I see it can start a ripple effect. It's like planting a seed. You never know how big the tree will grow." Elon smiled, nodding in agreement. "That's exactly the point. A new mission, giving back even more." By the end of their conversation, Clara had made up her mind. "I want to do more," she said. "Not just here, but for others. People like me who just need someone to believe in them." The next year, Clara expanded her efforts even further. She partnered with local organizations to launch a program called Pathway to Purpose, which offered job training and mentorship to the homeless. Clara's story began gaining national attention, with media outlets highlighting her incredible journey from the streets to a thriving business owner and community leader. Her transformation wasn't just about her own success. It was about everyone she helped along the way. The cafe had become more than just a business. It was a symbol of hope. It proved that even in the darkest moments, one act of kindness could spark change. Finding peace. One evening, as Clara locked up the cafe, she stood outside for a moment, looking up at the starry sky. Life was still far from perfect, and there were challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. She whispered quietly, "Thank you." It was a message not just to Elon, but to herself. She had never given up on her dreams, even when it seemed impossible. She had held on, and now her life was proof that better days really could come. Clara's story served as a powerful reminder to everyone who heard it. No act of kindness is ever wasted, and sometimes all it takes to change a life is a second chance. The power of kindness. Clara's journey of transformation. Clara's story is a powerful example of how one small act of kindness can set off a chain reaction that changes everything. From being homeless to becoming a successful cafe owner, her journey shows that no matter where we begin, we can create meaningful change, both for ourselves and those around us. Her transformation wasn't just about finding success. It was about the ripple effect of hope, kindness, and belief. It's a reminder that even in the toughest of times, a little selflessness can make a world of difference. Clara's story proves that everyone, no matter their past, deserves a second chance. What can you do today? Clara's story challenges us all to think about how we can make a positive impact on the world. What's one small act of kindness you can offer today? Whether it's helping a stranger, listening to someone who needs it, or offering a word of encouragement, your actions can create a ripple effect that goes far beyond what you can see. Now we want to hear from you. How would you change someone's life if you had the chance? What's one thing you can do right now to spread kindness and make a real difference tomorrow? If Clara's story has inspired you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. Let's keep the message of hope, kindness, and second chances alive. Together, we can inspire change and make the world a better place for everyone. Thank you for watching, and remember, no act of kindness is ever too small to matter.